Other yellow hat guy here, back with another video, and we're gonna talk Justin Roiland. Okay, so let me start out by saying I don't follow this guy like I may some of the other people we've talked about on Sympathy for. So usually it's whatever story is shocking and whatever story is, hey, I didn't see this coming from so and so icon that I followed from childhood. But it's fair game, fair play for everyone, whether I'm a fan or somebody I don't even know of at all. So if you haven't heard of Justin Roiland, maybe the rock you're living under has finally broken, because if you don't know him from these cartoons, you probably know him from the news that's come out, where he's been accused of false imprisonment of someone he's been dating, and some other stuff I'm sure will come out as well. So these stories get tricky where here you have somebody kind of rising to fame. Now, he was already famous for a little bit, right? But they're rising to fame, they're doing their own thing, and then suddenly something like that happens where they're accused of some kind of crazy crime, usually a domestic incident or sexual assault, and you just don't want to believe it because you're like, well, why would they have to do that? Plenty of money, plenty of talent. They can find people that will be with them and adjust their lifestyle to accommodate this wealthy and powerful person. That doesn't always mean that our personal bias is accurate, right? When Bill Cosby did what he did, you couldn't believe that it was America's dad. But what this all plays into is the more talented the person, there's probably some kind of weird stuff going on. That's the correlation I'm trying to make here, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true either. But you're seeing where our guys that stand out and gals that stand out and do their own thing, and they're different. They're different for different reasons, right? There's things going on in their personal lives that may be askew, and it leads to, at least on television and movies and games, as maybe if not groundbreaking but exciting, but in real life it's like so I'm just speculating that that's the case that's going on with Justin here. So Justin, I know him from Lemon Grab on Adventure Time. That's where I know him best, and I would say that if he's doing these things, unacceptable. I'm not going to try to do the voice, it's too early in the morning. Um, and I can't really do a good voice for that anyway. But he's very talented at these voices. You guys like him for that Rick and Morty. That's where he's really famous. Him and Dan Harmon from Community, they teamed up to make that show. And I don't really follow that show either. I know. I should. I'm supposed to, but whatever. I haven't been up to date in that series at all. I watched a couple of them. It didn't really grab me. Recently, there's a game called High on Life, and that looks fun. He's producer on that. He has a Squanch Tendo Games, or Squanch Tendo, now renamed to Squanch Games, and they've put out some games, and then these some of these other ones might be okay. I'm not really sure, but I do have two of those Adventure Time games, and one of them I enjoyed for as simple as it was. The other two remain to be seen, but the reviews are unacceptable. Unacceptable! So, do I have any sympathy for Justin? We gotta have the facts come out. So this happened in 2020, and it's just now coming out. That's the problem with a lot of these things. And it takes time for people to speak out. You don't often just speak out immediately, especially if somebody is powerful and famous, because that can impact your career. It can come to a head where you're like, hey, as soon as I say something about this guy, depending on how you guys, met up, let's say, usually people, the saying is you don't date where you work at, right? But that still usually happens, right? People nowadays are they're not necessarily meeting at clubs and bars. they're meeting online. They're also meeting still traditionally like at a workplace or in proximity of a workplace. So if you do meet somebody at Starbucks, it's by chance in your neighborhood and or by work, right? So, that's usually how it plays out, just based off of time and people's habits. I say that to say, if this young lady, whoever she is, didn't feel the need to speak up immediately, it maybe took a while for her to get herself together due to some of this trauma and, fear of what would happen if she said something about this, powerful, popular creator who people wouldn't believe her. So there's that side to it, and then there's the, if this is false, this could be a, money grab, right? So there's two extremes here. I'm not siding with either of these parties here because while I don't know Justin, I had the chance to meet him. I had the chance to meet him, and I didn't see what the big deal was with Rick and Morty, so I chose not to. Right, I was at a Comic-Con. He was there. Lots of young girls lined up trying to meet him, guys too. And I was like, who? Okay, and I didn't realize at the time he did the voices and all that too. I thought he was just like the writer, which he was, but you're just the writer, that's one thing. But he was also these voices on Adventure Time and all these other things that I would find out about later. Right, I wasn't really into Adventure Time when it was on TV. I watched it here and there, but after the show was over with, then I was like, with more time and opportunity to catch up. And what our generation has, and this is a tangent, we have the ability now with streaming services to watch things in their entirety versus back then where you had to wait each week to see things, right? And if that show was out now, you still probably have to watch it each week, but I prefer to watch my shows at the pace that I want to watch. If I'm going to binge watch The Simpsons, I'm going to binge watch it. I'm not going to watch 22-minute episodes with commercials if I have the choice. Okay? So, I digress. Roiland is in hot water now. It looks like if this stuff, just the accusation in itself is as damaging as the crime, the conviction, or, because what's going to happen is they're going to say, well, Rick and Morty is up for renewal. We don't know if we should because now we look like we believe Justin and do not believe the plaintiff, right? Whereas it should be innocent until proven guilty. It's almost now like he's guilty just for being in this situation, period. So the trial's set for April 27th, I believe, late April 2023. So not long from now. But man, if she did say something in 2020, right, let's just say that she did, and people knew about it, and he continued to get work, it's almost like they just ignored this thing. Some of these companies and business partners just ignored it all. And we'll see what the results are. We'll see what the results are. If I knew more about this person and the situation, there aren't a lot of details out here. I would have a more favorable or unfavorable opinion, but the facts are the facts. I don't want to form opinions off of information that I don't know. What I do know is there are stories out there of Justin saying some weird and creepy stuff to where you're like, oh, he's a weird, creepy guy who does weird, creepy voices for weird and creepy characters. So, he does it so well that maybe in his personal life he's a weird and creepy person. So none of this would be surprising to me if it were true, right? So this is just a domestic thing. But when there's smoke, there's fire. So, it wouldn't surprise me within the coming months or weeks even if other women came out and said stuff, right? We talk about athletes like a Deshaun Watson who got in his own trouble, and suddenly there's like 20-something women that all have similar stories about what the guy is doing. His girlfriend stood by him, and eventually the football team picked him back up, and he was able to, after a lengthy suspension, continue his career. So, worst case, let's say it's a domestic incident, would the public forgive Justin? Would you forgive Justin? only time will tell. But if Adult Swim gets rid of him and cancels Rick and Morty, does he have the money to just do it independently or make a brand new show? Because I imagine Rick and Morty is owned by Cartoon Network at this point, right? Even though it's on other networks and things like that. I'm not sure how all that stuff works, but I feel bad for you guys. I have sympathy for you guys who are fans, and then suddenly something that you're really interested in gets a black eye based off of something that has not been proven yet. So we'll see how it plays out. Maybe we'll have a follow-up, maybe we won't. But on the surface right now, I do not feel sorry for Justin. I'm kind of leaning towards he made this situation or allowed it to become as gross as it is. And, hopefully it's not true, but shame on him if it is, because, as always, that kind of behavior is unacceptable. See you in the next one.
Captain Sensation!